Durandar, what a masterpiece it is. But my heart goes out to the heroine Sara Arjun, who has left Durandar just for the sake of it. I literally was thinking, is there any way for her to get into India and they living together, both enjoying? Then I thought of citizenship rules in India. You see, Sarah can get into India and can permanently reside with Durandar happily by obtaining her citizenship through a process as just on spouse conditions by registering herself. Registration. Okay, then how actually any person can become Indian citizen? It is based on five factors. One is by birth. If you are born directly in India, obviously you would become Indian citizen. Second is by descent and naturalization or registration, like in different cases of spouse related conditions or incorporation of territory. So these are all we know. Naturalization in the sense someone who has come to India and has stayed for more than 12 years, they can become Indian citizen. This is unlike the rules in US or Australia. It would take some 5 years, 4 years like that, so as to get eligibility to register themselves to obtain citizenship. But here in India, obviously you need to stay for a long period of time so as to gain the trust and become Indian citizen. Incorporation of territory in the sense, as per Article 2 and 3, Indian government can admit any external land through war or some other conditions into our Indian Union of States. So in that case, when an external territory is obtained, and in case of a reorganization of the existing states itself, like how it happened to AP Telangana, and of course, this is an example of Sikkim, how it was an associate state and later become a permanent full statehood within India. So, in such conditions, obviously, those persons living in those territories of external land but now become Indian territory would automatically become Indian citizens. So these are the conditions. Okay, then I wanted to see how exactly Indian citizenship card lies, how it is, how it looks. I want to feel it, I want to sense it. But to your surprise, there is nothing like citizenship card for India. There is no ID card. Okay, then how about Aadhaar? Every person is having Aadhaar, right? But this doesn't mean a citizenship card. This is not any citizenship card. It is just an ID card of your identity and residence. It is not a citizenship card. Then I have all government service records. Preferably, I'm a government employee, or all my education records that actually distinguish with local status, etc. And PAN card I have, voter ID I have. Okay, can I get ID card, citizenship ID card in India? No, you can't get. These are all the records or documents that help to establish citizenship, but need not or necessarily you being an Indian citizen. However, in India, we don't have any citizenship card as say, of course, but we have some principles like India only accepts single citizenship. You know, right? India is a union of states, not a federation. So, obviously, it has this single citizenship policy. That means I belong to Andhra, so I have Andhra citizenship like that. In US, you can say it is an agreement among all states, and they still have the right to secede, and that's how it is called as federation. But that's not the case with Indian Union. So, what exactly would you mean by citizenship in India? I want to hold it. I want to sense it. Okay. Do you have passport? That is the only entity that determines your citizenship as an Indian. But in international land. So whenever you go to abroad, it's somewhat you can relate to international standards of ID card that you are an Indian citizen. But within India, for suppose any illiterate person, they don't visit any other countries, not an international land or border. They don't even cross borders. They don't have any sort of citizenship card. But for those who are traveling often, of course, passport exactly means your identity of who you are in an foreign land. So that's how the only entity that determines your citizenship in India. Then, how about this term NRI and OCI? You can easily say non-resident of non-resident Indian and overseas citizen of India, non-resident Indian. You can add this proposition but non-resident but Indian. That means those who have gone outside to study or for work as such for more than 182 days in a year, they are staying abroad means they would become an NRI. And this person could become OCI whenever he obtains any foreign passport. The moment he obtains foreign passport, immediately his Indian citizenship gets terminated because your identity as you belong to Indian national was being now told by some foreign land or some foreign country. So obviously it gets automatically terminated. And now as you are a foreign citizen, you can also be called as overseas citizen, but you have Indian origin. And our Indian government provides you with some privileges like multiple entries to India, multiple entries to India, multiple entries to India without applying for visa every time you come here, and you can join any so not join. You can buy any property, but you can't buy agricultural land, and you don't have any voting rights, and you are not actually a citizen because you are overseas citizen. You are not citizen of India. So this is how exactly you will differentiate the powers and privileges. Have you been the citizen of India merely with NRI status if you are to go abroad on some visa permit or work or study permit? So here if he returns back, he can buy any property, even the agricultural land, and he can write or prepare for government jobs. So basically, he could become employee of state government or government of India, and he has his name in electoral roll. So these are the major differences between OCI and NRI. So OCI simply we can say no more a citizen of India, and we don't have any right on that person's nationality. Hope you got it. And what is meant by birth tourism? This is quite popular and even more controversial in US. You see, in US the laws are quite different, where a child can obtain citizenship simply on based on law of soil. If they are on some flight and the mother got delivered a baby, then that baby immediately becomes US citizen. It's quite easy, and that's the loophole that led to the controversy of birth tourism. You see, many parents of different nationalities are getting visas in a fraudulent ways to get their delivery on the US soil so that their child gets permanent US citizenship freely, so that they get easier access to jobs, education, medical medical facilities, immigration policies, etc. And when the child grows to 21 years, they can sponsor for the citizenship of parents as well. So this is really debatable because that creates a loophole within the constitution of US. But the scenario is quite different in India, where you can get citizenship through birth on soil of India, and of course descent is also required, in the sense your parents must be Indian, they are of Indian origin. How about such scenarios when the child is born in US territory but to Indian parents? I mean, then that child would obviously get US citizenship, and of course, due to this descent, the child also gets Indian citizenship. At that moment, he would be he or she would be having both, but automatically they would choose US citizenship because that's how the influence is going on. But for to get Indian citizenship, they need to register themselves and apply, and then only they can get the Indian citizenship. They need to revoke it, the US citizenship. They can't hold dual citizenship, which is illegal in India. Now coming to this love story of Durandar, Sara Arjun can meet Durandar. She can become a wife of Durandar, but not necessarily Indian citizen. This requires a long process. Of course, spouse conditions are there for easy registration to apply and then get into India. But of course, she can get into India and stay here happily with Durandar, but not necessarily in the sense to obtain the citizenship. As you can see, citizenship involves a typical voter rights as such, property, agricultural land buyings, dealings as such, everything basically to an Indian citizen is available. Those all rights would be coming. But Sara is Pakistani, right? She is of Pakistan origin. This is quite important because India's hostile country after partition, this is quite impossible. If you can see the Citizenship Act 1955, there are certain laws which restrict these enemy countries or these foreign aliens not to obtain citizenship in India. These are like stricter laws. If you can see, these nationals can't even get a OCI, leave about citizenship. Those who are from Pakistan or those who have migrated from Bangladesh, say Rohingyas from Myanmar, they can't even get OCI. Like, they are typically overseas citizens of Indian origin because before partition, as such, no, those reasons won't be valid. They are not going to get citizenship at any cost. Maybe, how about naturalization as such? It's quite difficult. 12 years need to pass, and of course, they might stoop down to infiltrate in such a level as well, but it's not guaranteed. It's quite stricter for them, especially of these nationals, to get Indian citizenship. That's how much tighter is our Indian citizenship laws. But do you know the generosity of our Indian government? Say you went abroad. Suppose, let's begin. You started as Indian citizen. You hold Indian passport, but went abroad to stay and still hold Indian passport. But the moment you obtained foreign passport, you became OCI and no longer the citizen of India because now you are citizen of overseas of some foreign national. But let's say due to some instability over there and you realized Mera Bharat Mahan and you wanted to become back the citizen of India with all the rights in voting, to buy properties, agricultural land, etc. Still, Government of India under Citizenship Act 1955 provides you to obtain Indian citizenship through a process of overseas citizenship fast track registration, wherein before reapplying to get your Indian citizenship, you have to be a OCI card holder for 5 years and 12-month stay in India is required. Typically, just 1 year stay is required before you applying in order to obtain Indian citizenship. And let me tell you the much more magnanimous soul and higher generosity of our government of India, that is Parliament. Parliament has come up with the original Citizenship Act 1955 and then the Citizenship Amendment Act 2019, wherein the poor souls, which we felt earlier, like the hostile nationals, couldn't get Indian citizenship. However, those are Islamic majority countries, and of course, the partition is based on these regional lines itself. So, our government of India protects those persecuted minorities in such Islamic majority countries such as Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Bangladesh, and those six minorities, which are Hindus, Christians, Parsis, Buddhists, Jains, Sikhs. These persons, they would be protecting under Citizenship Amendment Act 2019. So what's the protection in the sense? Unless, usually we had this naturalization that takes place for 12 years, like continuous residence of any foreign citizen within India for 12 years, in which 11 years is like he comes and goes, and 1 year continuous stay before he applies for citizenship. This would be valid for him to register to obtain Indian citizenship. Thus, the jobs, agriculture, land, properties, education, government jobs, electoral role, etc. But now, these people who have entered India are under illegal migrants tag would now be converted into legalized into citizen of India based on the Citizenship Amendment Act 2019. But this is valid only to persecuted minorities in those Islamic majority states or countries. We have 8 bordering nations to India, but of these only the Islamic majority countries, and for the people of persecuted minorities only we are providing this amendment act, like the parliament is providing the amendment act, but not to Muslim immigrants such as Rohingyas of Myanmar. Like these are all of Muslim illegal. They would be remaining as illegal migrants itself.